The main character remembers that she was always unlucky. She was confident that her answers in the exam were correct, but she failed. The store, which always had plenty of things, ran out right before she arrived, and her lover left her and went to her childhood friend. The girl cried a lot, especially after her drunken father threw an ashtray at her. Then she ran away from home. She was never able to enter the university of her dreams, and when she was sick, there was no one to even buy her medicine. But Lee Yoon admits that she really tried. But this is how she lived her 24 years. How one day she came to a store to buy a lottery ticket, and the salesman was horrified by the nasty smell that came from her. Lee Yoon had a job interview that day, but she failed because she stepped on a pile of dog shit right in front of the company. While at home, she washes her grief down with alcohol and decides to check the lottery ticket. The girl was doing a pointless thing because she understood that nothing could ruin such a terrible day. When suddenly Lee Yoon realizes that she won the lottery, taking first place in it. The main character does not believe her eyes. She believes that all the luck she had in store for her life was wasted just for this moment. Lee Yoon was sure that God did not exist, but now she knows that this is not so and thanks him, looking straight at the heavens. It was supposed to be an ordinary prayer, but lightning suddenly appeared out of nowhere and hit her directly, causing the girl to die. The main character does not believe that she died from a simple lightning strike, because no one dies from this at this time, even in their own home. She hears someone's voice, which persuades the Demon King not to get involved with a certain girl, because he may have a harem of women. A voice shouts that this girl is cursed to destroy the entire demonic world, and that she does not love its king at all. These sounds irritate Lee Yoon. The main character does not understand where these sounds are coming from and why it is so dark around her. She suspects that she is still unconscious. The girl remembers her winning lottery ticket, which contributes to her quick return to consciousness. Being in the body of a little brunette, Lee Yoon screams about her lottery ticket, which she will not give to anyone. But she notices that her arms and legs have become smaller, and her voice is completely childish. She's being held by someone's male hands. The main character decides to look at the man and is surprised at how handsome the man is in front of her. Lee Yoon worries that everything that happened before was just a dream, and her lottery ticket is not real either. She thinks that this is impossible and asks someone to wake her up. The girl tries to escape from the man's hands, but she fails and gives up. Looking at the capricious child, the stranger says that he finds her somewhat similar to someone else. Lee Yoon notices that the man has a pleasant voice, but for some reason his words give her goosebumps. The stranger throws the girl to the floor. She is indignant because she was hit hard due to the fall. Lee Yoon doesn't understand why she's in so much pain if it's all a dream. She thanks life that she fell at least on soft pillows. The main character wanted to look at the pillows, but instead she saw bones on which she fell. She ran down the mountain of remains and noticed that she was moving at the speed of a turtle. The girl cannot believe that the truth has become a child. Lee Yoon assumes that she is 5 years old, but the problem is not her age, but her hair, long and silky, which she has never had. While the stranger is dragging her somewhere again, the girl thinks that she doesn't know where she is at all, and that this mansion doesn't look like her room. The main character is in a stupor because she is in a place unfamiliar to her, and it is not clear how she ended up here. The entire palace heard the cry of a little girl desperately asking for help. The man threw the child onto the pillows, from which Lee Yoon watches him and what he is going to do. She tried to run away, but was taken aback by the fact that she was very slow, even though her arms and legs looked quite beautiful and healthy. The man, meanwhile, says that he does not believe that this time he did not succeed, although he made a tremendous amount of effort. Watching the main character try to move but stumble again and again, he says that the situation is very interesting. The stranger drags the child again and then places her back on the pillows. The man then uses magic to create 3 servants with the appearance of rabbits from the toys. Lee Yoon, who watches this, is surprised that there is magic in the world she finds herself in. The servants bowed politely to the Demon King and assured that they would fulfill his every request. The girl is shocked that the maids in the form of rabbits are alive and even talking. She was also alarmed by the words about the Demon King. Before leaving, the man ordered the servants to embellish the main character and bring her to him. The rabbits immediately began to carry out the order. While taking a hot bath, Lee Yoon admires the service conditions. The foam smells like flowers, and they brought delicious ice cream. The girl also likes her hands, which look like a doll's. However, it seems to her that she is going crazy, because in her opinion, what is happening to her is a fairy tale that cannot possibly be reality. The girl thinks that she cannot be an isekai heroine, because she was not hit by a truck and did not fall from the roof. She doesn't understand how she ended up in the body of a child because she just won the lottery, which she shouted out loud to the entire bathroom. The main character angrily decides that this all happened to her because of that strange lightning. The maids thought that the mistress was not happy with something and asked if they were doing anything unpleasant to her. She replied that everything was fine. Then the rabbits moved on to the next step, changing clothes. A cute doll girl appeared in front of the mirror, which the servants really liked. Lee Yoon, meanwhile, doesn't know why to be surprised. From lightning, from being transferred into a child, from the Demon King, or from his servants, who were just toys. Suddenly, the maids with tears in their eyes say that the main character is very similar to Miss Acela, as if she had been born again. The girl asked who it was, and one of the rabbits said that Acela was the love of the Demon King. Acela Nincher is one of the most powerful sorceresses in the world, as well as the beloved of the Demon King. She was so strong that many demons trembled and ran away when they heard her name. The maids blabbed that the most powerful sorceress in the world died almost 1,000 years ago. Their conversation was stopped by another servant, who threatened them that for unnecessary conversations, the owner would turn them back into toys. At this time, puzzles begin to fall into place for Leon. She remembered the dialogue from the beginning, in which a man tried to persuade someone not to get involved with a girl. The girl realizes that she is the deceased love of the Demon King, who was reborn many years later. Because of this, she burst into tears like a baby. After a while, walking along the luxurious corridor, the maid asks the lady if everything suits her. She says that everything is fine and nothing worries her. Lee Yoon is surprised that she was just at the door, and now she is already in the rich hall. The girl realizes that now, perhaps, that same man will come. She doesn't know whether he will kill her or not, so she decided to quickly escape from here. When suddenly, Lee Yoon sees the Demon King sitting on a throne away from her. She was very scared, because she hadn't noticed him all this time. The rabbit servant leaves the hall, which the little lady really didn't want, because now she was left alone with the mysterious stranger. Despite the fear, Lee Yoon decides to talk, because if this man has a mouth and ears, then he is capable of conversation. The main character is mentally preparing to say that she is not his dead love, wondering how such a moron can even have a girlfriend. The girl decides that she has love only with the lottery, where she took first place. But noticing the man's cold gaze, she again worried that she might become one of those dolls, or die even worse than last time. The Demon King calmly addresses the child, saying that she looks like someone he knows. At this time, the main character became so worried that she got rid of her last remnants of reason. She shouts to the man that his magic did not work, and she forbids him to raise her for himself, because she is not his girlfriend. Having come to her senses, the girl begins to shake from what she just did. But she understands that what has been done cannot be undone, and continues to say that in fact, she's a 100-year-old man. While the main character repeated that she refused to be anyone for the king, the man decided to use magic to pacify her. Using magic, he sealed the girl's mouth, which is why now she cannot say a word. The gentleman asks if he would be wrong if he said that in a past life her name was Lee Yoon. She is surprised that he knows about this, and understands that the Demon King has finally realized that she is not his beloved, and that there is another soul in this body. The main character was sad that now this man could kill her at any moment. Using the same magic, the Demon King forced the girl to come closer to him, which is why Lee Yoon rose in the air and floated towards him. She wonders if she will return to Korea if she dies here, because she really feels like she is going to be killed. Suddenly, the young lady realizes that she has the face of his beloved Acela, and decides to carry out her insidious plan. Walking closer to the man, she put on the sweetest smile on her face, hoping that it would appease him. But the Demon King didn't like it so much that he threatened her with death. The main character began to worry again. She realized that she didn't want to die like last time, but wanted to live, even if it was for eternity. Noticing that the man was silent, the girl already thought that the power of her cute face had worked. Suddenly, Lee Yoon hears words from the Demon King that shock her. If she wants to live, she must forget her past life. The magical power lifts her into the air again, after which she stands on the floor in a new pink outfit. After this, the king says that from now on her name is Princess Luciana Road Moon Bloodrain. The girl notices that her mouth can move again. She believes that this is her chance, and she should not miss it for her own survival. The princess declares that from now on she is also in charge. He did not react to her words in any way. After the king's visit, the girl looked at herself in the mirror for an hour. She can't believe that the stranger in the reflection is now really her. It is still difficult for the main character to accept the fact that what is happening to her is not a dream. And if this is so, then a new test appears for Lee Yoon, to accept her new life. The rabbit servants approach the girl and ask for forgiveness. At first, she was afraid of their appearance, but then she said that everything was fine. While snacking on apples, Luciana thought that the maids began to take better care of her and decided that the status of a princess was making itself felt. She is pulled out of her thoughts by the rabbit servants, who ask her to ask them questions that interest her. The main character agrees with their proposal and asks where she is. The maids tell her that she is in the demon world of Mahatara, and except for the Holy Land, everything belongs to His Majesty. In the world the girl finds herself in, everyone and everything serves His Majesty the King. The demon king Kaon Mahana Road Moonbloodrain did a terrible thing in his teenage years. He had to kill his own father to take his place on the throne. He is the one who can devour any kingdom and just as easily destroy it if he gets tired of it. He is the one who fell in love with the sorceress who came to the palace to kill him, the one who lost all hope after her death, the one who does whatever he wants, despite the resistance of the ministers. And he is also the one who, with the help of magic, decided to revive his old love. From the maid's story, the girl realized that those skeletons belong to the ministers. One rabbit says that this is so, but she has nothing to worry about because His Majesty has already chosen new ministers. The main character seems to be in a black comedy, and this is probably because the man is a demon. She asks the servant if he created her in order to regenerate his beloved. The maid says that only thanks to ancient magic he was able to create Princess Luciana. Other colleagues supported her. Then the young mistress inquires about who they are, her servants. The rabbits remembered that they should introduce themselves, and one of them called herself Mariana, while the rest were her children. They said that it was a great honor for them to meet the princess, and prepared to listen to new orders from the lady. Luciana was frightened by their bright mood, and asked what she should do now. The girl watched for some time as the main servant Mariana gave commands to her children, after which the rabbit handed the girl a scroll and said that she just needed to prepare for her ceremony. Luciana is surprised that this language is not familiar to her, but she easily reads everything. The servant says that it is because she was created by special magic. Lee Yoon was even more surprised by this and asked if it was true. The rabbit said that this was just her guess. The girl was a little upset about this, but decided that she needed to be grateful that she was not reborn as a commoner and not a man. Only after reading the beginning of the text, the main character already becomes interested. It is said that ancient magic was able to bring to this world a creature created by fate itself. And this creature is she, Luciana Road Moonbloodrain. A girl who lost the light of love found herself in the world of demons. But despite all this, she was able to open her heart and use the power of love. The girl doesn't like what's written. She says that she won't read it, even though she's already read some of it. But she is begged to continue reading by three maids, because of whom the main character is forced to read further aloud. Before she can continue, Lee Yoon immediately gives up, believing that she would rather be rejected for work 20 times than continue to read this nonsense. Servant Mariana insists that the princess continue reading with pride, because she will become the only princess of the demon world. Lee Yoon, who wanted to end this quickly, shouted at the top of her voice that she was the only princess of the demon world, which made all the servants happy. The main character turned red as a tomato because she's already an adult 24-year-old woman, but she is forced to do such things. The girl agrees with the proverb, which says that a person quickly gets used to everything. She got used to this madness overnight. Dressing for the ceremony, she remembers that all the time she just slept, ate, and practiced dance. The rabbit said that she was doing well. The princess hopes that everything will go well, although she is starting to worry. She feels like a child getting ready for a matinee in kindergarten. She is supported by one of the maids, who advises her not to be afraid of making mistakes, because this is the first time for her. Luciana was taken aback because she had never heard words of support addressed to her. She admits that she just doesn't want to anger that man. The servant guessed that she meant the Demon King and reassured her that if he wanted to kill her, he would have done it long ago. The girl burst into tears at such statements, but the rabbits assured that there was no reason for tears because he gave her his last name, which can only be worn by the greatest people and rulers of the world. But the princess asked if they were sure about this because the Demon King didn't even know what kind of person she was. All the rabbit servants shook their heads, and one of them said that Lee Yoon was too young to understand this. The rabbit says that she has been working for His Majesty for a very long time, so she can say with confidence that Luciana is very important to him. But Lee Yoon says that she is still not sure about this because she is not his beloved Acela. The maid reminds him that birth is a miracle sent to him from above. This miracle cannot be repeated, so she asks the lady not to worry. A terrible roar is heard, which turned out to be rumbling in the girl's stomach. She admits that she was very hungry. The main character is surprised by the amount of food that the entire table is filled with. She hesitates that she will not be able to eat so much food, which seems to have been prepared for a large family. A hungry stomach leaves Luciana no choice, and she decides to at least try each of the dishes, wishing herself a pleasant appetite. A moment emerges in her memory where the rabbit says that she has been serving the king for a long time and knows for sure that the princess is very important to him. Pouncing on the steak, she screams that the maid's words are complete nonsense because the demon king almost killed her when she showed her sweet smile. Having tasted the meat, Li Aun thought she was in heaven. It was so tasty that she wanted to award the local chef 3 Michelin stars. She is very glad that she was not reborn poor. Eating dishes one after another, the main character agrees with the maid that if the demon king wanted to kill her, he would have done it long ago. Now she decides to enjoy each dish in turn, and what will happen tomorrow is her concern already tomorrow. In a dark room illuminated by moonlight, Luciana had a dream about her lost life. She was happy when she saw her lottery ticket in a dream. Li Yun points out that she is an ordinary person and does not need princess status. The girl only wanted a lot of money, but she was separated from it just when it was almost in her pocket. The princess woke up from this nightmare. She thinks she's going crazy because she is constantly shaking and has no control over her emotions. Although it is difficult to live differently in the place she finds herself in, it was the most emotional dawn for Luciana. The girl remembers her favorite drinks, soju and beer, which she misses very much. She wondered if they were in this palace. Li Yun doesn't deny that the food here is delicious, but she hopes they at least have wine or whiskey instead of soju and makgeolli. But Luciana realizes that she is unlikely to be allowed to drink wine at such a young age. Then she wonders when she will grow up. Thoughts about when she becomes an adult, whether she will be able to withstand so much time, and about her father, lulled the little lady. Li Yun remembers her father, whom she liked to call Dad, but over time, Dad turned into Father. But the day when he threw an ashtray at her finally broke their connection. The girl always wanted to congratulate her father on some holiday, but did not dare to call. She admits that last year she finally called him when she got drunk on his birthday. She was very hurt when it turned out that her dad had married for the second time. Li Yun thinks that mom and dad are the same, although the latter is even worse. While she was in shock from such news, her father's voice spoke into the phone in bewilderment, until the child's voice told Dad about his gift. The main character is visited by sad thoughts. She believes that all the problems are only because of her, because she is bad in everything. She had always found it easier to be bullied than to fight back. Li Yun is sure that there is nothing special about her. The girl she gave a second life to is also sad with her. The main character believes that she will never be able to feel the love of her parents again. Princess Luciana, who was tormented by nightmares, was watched all this time by the king, who sat quietly next to her. The man raised his hand to the child's tear-stained face to use magic. He said that the princess should not have nightmares, after which the girl's condition in her sleep improved significantly. The demon king watched the princess for a while, and then left the room, where one of his subordinates was already waiting for him. Kneeling down, the young man asks His Majesty if he really won't return her soul back, because it is not Acela's soul. He knows that the king is aware of this, because the latter is a telepath. The subordinate also wanted to make an argument in the direction of a certain prophecy, but the king silenced him, menacingly calling him Captain Anu. Kaon Mahana says that from now on, he is appointed as the princess's chief knight, and before leaving, he casts some magic on Anna. The knight, whose head had turned from a human to a dog's, did not have time to understand anything when he noticed that there was no trace of the king. The captain of the royal knights was the second closest person to the demon king, after the sorceress Acela. Known for his courage and loyalty, Anubis was a demon in dog form, and judging by his new sudden appointment as a personal knight, it can be confidently said how much the demon king trusts him. Before entering the princess's room, Anu thought that he had never looked after a child, and he was not sure whether she was a child or not. The main character is not an ordinary person, but a creation of mana, which contains someone's soul. Knight Anu decided to discard unnecessary thoughts, because an order is an order. The man understands that since he will be the princess's personal knight, he needs to meet her and create a pleasant impression, because it's not in vain that he spent 3 hours styling his hair and wearing ironed clothes. As soon as Anubis entered the room, he saw a servant who was greeting him nicely, and behind her was Luciana, who was looking at him from behind the rabbit. The knight immediately thought that his hopes for a normal acquaintance had failed miserably, because he didn't even have time to introduce himself. The rabbit tells him not to be offended because the princess is afraid of strangers and gives him a handkerchief, which Anu used to wipe the sweat from his face. The maid shared a little advice with him. You just need to talk to the main character from afar. Anubis bowed to the princess, introduced himself, and said that he had been appointed as her personal knight, but the girl does not trust him. She thinks that the king deliberately brought a spy to her in the form of a knight who will forever stand outside her room. In truth, Li Yun doesn't think his appearance is too scary, but she still doesn't like that it's the Demon King's idea. She recalls that she had the same experience with rabbits. It took her a while to get used to them. Luciana becomes afraid of what the king might do to her if she refuses his gift, so she decides to take a closer look at Anubis. The maid asks the princess not to be afraid. Today the knight will take her to the ceremony. The girl thinks to herself that Marie's words won't help her anyway, so she orders Anu to leave and come before the ceremony, because now she doesn't need him anyway. Anubis did not contradict the mistress, but was upset that he would have a hard time in his relationship with the main character. The princess thinks that there is no point in getting close to the knight yet, because she is busy preparing for the ceremony. After his unsuccessful greeting, the man left, and the young lady asked the servant who he was. Rabbit Mary says that he is very sincere, and as the king, she can completely trust him. He is evidence that the king cares about her. But the girl finds it all strange. She believes that Mary doesn't even understand, which makes the situation even more suspicious. Li Yun doesn't know why His Majesty treats her so well, because it wasn't love at first sight, and they only met once. She guesses that he really sees her as a former lover, and does not kill her, which means that her life is walking on the edge of an abyss. If anything changes for the Demon King, she will be immediately killed, or at least locked away. The main character is pulled out of her thoughts by a maid who asks her if everything is okay with her, because she doesn't look well. She hesitantly replies that she is fine and that she was just thinking. After some time, Princess Luciana was prepared for the ceremony, dressed in a beautiful pink dress. Mary says that she was very interested in how this dress would look on her, because the king personally chose it. She admires how perfect it is. The princess asked the servant how she knew this, to which she replied that she was sure that otherwise the king would not have chosen him. The girl laughed at her words. She wonders if she will achieve the skill of reading Kaon's mind like Marie's. The servant said that it was time for her to go to the ceremony, but Li Yun wanted to reread her text again for insurance. Walking into the ceremony hall, the main character thinks that even though she is a magical child, when traveling to distant places, Marie always carries her in her arms. The young lady understands that the audience room is really far away. She's glad that they left on time. Suddenly, she has an idea and turns to the rabbit servant. She thought that she was uncomfortable and asked about it. The girl pointed her finger at Anubis and said that she wanted him to carry her. He was embarrassed by such an order, but happily agreed. Mary thought that the girl trusted him, for which she thanked her. In fact, Li Yun feels sorry for her servant, because she is probably tired. Anubis delicately took the child in his arms, but she did not really like the smile on his face. She doesn't want the other person to smile so much because of her. After a short time, the trio reached the doors behind which the ceremony everyone expected was taking place. Behind those doors, Li Yun awaits many stares, and just like that, 15 days later, she finally met him again. The Demon King Kaon, after half a month, still wants to keep the girl alive, despite the fact that she is not his reincarnated lover. Approaching the king and his throne, Luciana still cannot understand why he gave her his last name and how to address him. She thought about calling him Daddy, which made her laugh sarcastically. The knight told the princess that she could let him go and sit with His Majesty, which she really did not want. In the end, the girl still had to sit on Kaon's lap. This confuses her so much that she can't breathe, and her heart feels like it's jumping out of her chest. Suddenly, the young mistress noticed that, to her surprise, she was sitting very comfortably. Li Yun noticed that Anu's touch was simply pleasant, and His Majesty could be compared to a soft cloud. She's so comfortable that she doesn't even want to move. The main character hopes that she will stay here with him longer. The princess put such thoughts aside and thought that perhaps the king was using magic to make her sit comfortably on his lap. Luciana found her idea so absurd that she laughed out loud. However, her behavior apparently did not please the king, and he stopped the fun by placing his hand on her head. This didn't suit her either, because the servants tried very hard to make the tiara look beautiful. She removed his hand, and said that otherwise he would ruin his hair. Suddenly, she felt bad for allowing herself to say such a thing because children's words come out before they think. The main character hopes that she has not angered the king and he will not kill her. A sweet, obedient child who simply misspoke. An elderly magician appeared in front of the throne and announced the beginning of a ceremony that Luciana couldn't wait to see. The princess was looking forward to hearing an ancient complex spell from the magician's lips. But instead, the magician began to list each letter of the alphabet. The girl thought that she was being played because a magic spell couldn't sound so funny. But as soon as the magician said all the letters up to T, the magic worked, and the hall was filled with light and magical signs. A huge halo appeared around the princess, the size of which all the guests were indescribably delighted. From Maria's story, Li Yun recalls that such halos predict fate and talents. They all differ in size and shape, but the bigger the better, which is why the reaction from the audience was so loud. Then the magician suggests moving on to the next part of the ceremony, the speech of the princess. He asks Luciana to come on stage. The king helped the girl with this, and with the help of magic he transplanted her there. Looking around the audience, the lady understands that the very moment has come where she must give her speech perfectly, without a hitch. The princess began a perfect speech about how, thanks to magic, a creature sent by fate appeared in their country. She was worried, but spoke confidently. Despite the suddenness of the event, all the aristocrats of the demonic world canceled their important affairs in order to attend the ceremony. And all the gentlemen had one question. Who did the king decide to appoint as princess? Because after Acella's death, he did not hold banquets and meetings. Fortunately, because Acella asked Kion not to destroy himself, he did not give up his destiny as the demon king. The entire demon kingdom existed thanks to the king's magic, so everyone was always afraid that something might happen to him. Society many times discussed the princess who appeared to the king, saying that this was his new love. Others did not believe this, because he loved Acella very much. But all questions immediately disappeared when the residents saw this little girl. Luciana is very similar to Kion's lover. The only difference that could be noted was her soul, but perhaps this is due to the fact that she is still young. Acella was very self-confident. Big eyes added an edge to her look. She was a sorceress who didn't need a magic wand. She wanted to kill the demon king to increase her influence, but she fell in love with him at first sight. She cursed Khan with such an ordinary human feeling. However, in Li Yun, society does not feel Acella's life, although she seems very sweet. No one understands why the demonic world needs a kind princess. She does not have the fortitude that the sorceress had. Although this plays into the hands of the gentleman, it will be easier to come to an agreement with her than with Acella. It was because of this that the inhabitants of the demonic world welcomed the new princess so warmly, and no one wanted to object to the king and end up among the remains. Moreover, no one has seen such a large halo, comparable to the royal one. Someone wanted to remind us of the ominous prophecy, but did not. Concluding her speech, the girl says that despite all the difficulties, she was able to open her heart and use the power of love. The audience squealed at her cuteness. One woman thought that this was the power of the princess. The man decided that all the gifts he brought would not be enough, so he allowed him to take away his entire fortune. Knight Anu happily tells His Majesty that everything turned out exactly as he wanted. Anubis, bringing the princess to her room, advises her to leave everything to the adults and go and rest. But the girl didn't like the fact that she was kept like a little girl, although at heart she was already an adult. Then she realized that the man did not know that she was actually an adult in the body of a child. And regarding her servant Marie, it seems to the main character that she guesses about this. Luciana hesitates between telling them about her true nature or hiding everything. She decides to reveal her secret and asks Anna and Marie to come closer to her, asking them not to be too surprised by what she tells. After Li Yun revealed the whole truth, she apologized to them because it must have been a big shock for them. But instead, Anubis laughed because the girl was still a very small child. She didn't like it, and she denied his words, recalling that she was already a 24-year-old woman. This made the knight laugh even more. Luciana blushed with shame and thought that she had told all this in vain. Marie, wiping away tears of laughter, says that it all depends on the creature, but in their world, 24 is the right age for a princess like her. Anu supports the maid. In their demonic world, people must be at least 40 to be considered adults. The girl is very surprised by this, but she is even more shocked by the servant's words that life expectancy depends on the amount of magic. The princess was stunned when she was told that she would live for many years, because her magic was on par with His Majesty. Marie believes that ancient magic has chosen the right soul for the right body, while Li Yun doesn't know why she should be more surprised. Luciana began to get angry because she did not understand whether this was good or bad. But when the servant asked if everything was okay with her, she answered that she was completely fine. The main character curses magic. She is shocked that she stepped into dog poop on the day of the interview and is still forced to suffer because of the moron who owns the entire kingdom. The girl is completely unaware of why, out of all the 24-year-olds in the world, they chose her. Although as a child, she wanted to be a princess with a bunch of dresses and grooms. At a young age, she envied all the princesses, who always had a happy ending in the end. However, she never needed this royal life, she just wants her lottery ticket back. Luciana's downcast mood was noticed by the servant and Anna. The latter realizes that she misses her past life. Then the knight asks the girl a counter-question. Was she happy before she came to them? The main character remembers that she was never first in Li Yun's life, although she didn't even try to be like that. While others fell, but got up and continued to run forward, she fell and remained in place, or retreated altogether. But no matter how unhappy Li Yun was, she wanted to live like this. This was her strength. Anu says that this is not happiness, and the girl agrees with him. They believe that there is no point in missing a life in which you were unhappy. Luciana refutes their conclusion. She says that she could have become happier, but it was at that moment that she was transported to the demonic world. This upset the girl. Anu and Marie also began to worry about the young mistress. Going to bed, the main character thinks that she would be better off pretending that everything is normal. After all, she still won't be able to return from this world, which means it will be awkward for her to see the palace workers. While trying to find a good sleeping position, the princess accidentally falls out of bed, after which she calls Maria to help her. Finding herself back on the bed, the girl asks the servant for forgiveness for having to save her. The rabbit tells her not to apologize for such things. Looking at the maid, the main character thinks that even though she is a toy, her smile is real, and she really treats her well. The princess likes Marie's kindness and sincerity so much that she out loud calls her Angel. She was immediately taken aback by the fact that she dared to call the servant Angel while in the demonic world. She thinks it would be more appropriate to call her the Devil. The rabbit laughed and said that she looked more like an angel than she did. Luciana apologizes for upsetting her, to which Marie says that she didn't upset her or Anubis. The young lady was delighted by this, and she closed her eyes in high spirits, preparing to fall asleep. Before leaving, the rabbit Marie wished her dear princess sweet dreams. A servant enters the main character, who is already woken up, and noticing her bright smile, asks if she had a good dream. Luciana, jumping out of bed, says that this is not so. She just slept well, which makes Marie very happy. The lady asks to serve her breakfast, recalling that she had nightmares every night after getting here. She doesn't remember what they were about, but she was very scared. Before this, she had not told Marie that she rarely slept well, because Li Yun had suffered from insomnia since middle school. She's glad she was able to get some sleep. The princess climbed onto the table and joyfully asked the rabbit about her breakfast, and she laughed jokingly. The main character was very happy when the servant served her pancakes, which she really liked last time. She believes that pancakes with butter and sweet honey are the best dish in the world. The lady eats her breakfast on both cheeks. The rabbit warned the princess to eat more slowly because she still had plenty of time, to which she agreed. After a while, the girl became convinced that she really had too much time. She has nothing to do, so every day is the same for her. Li Yun really quickly got used to her new life, and after finishing preparations for the ceremony, she had no choice but to sit back. Out of boredom, the girl asked Marie where the rest of the rabbits were. She replied that they were busy preparing for the banquet, which surprised Luciana. The servant explained to the child that usually after the ceremony, there are banquets for a whole week, but this time it was postponed due to unfinished preparations. The girl wanted to lazily lie down on the bed again, but the maid had an idea on how to entertain her. She invites her to take a walk in the garden today. However, the princess went for a walk with Anubis. She is angry at Mari for creating a reason for Leon to get close to Anu. Luciana is very offended by her, but she really wanted to go for a walk, so she will turn a blind eye to her cunning. The main character is delighted to be walking through a luxurious garden with a bridge and a fountain. The knight wanted to invite the girl to carry her himself, but she refused, saying that she was not a child. The princess recalls the proverb, "A fool does not realize that he is a fool," which she attributes to herself. She did not know that children had such small legs and quickly got tired of walking, which made the man laugh. The lady felt Anu take her in his arms. It was natural for her at the ceremony, but now she feels strange. The princess shares Marie's opinion. It is still difficult for her to trust him. She realizes that he is not a bad person, but she is wary of his connection with the king. Li Yun laughs to herself. She believes the servants who were also sent by Kaon, but not Anubis. She is always on guard, but sometimes she opens up to people too quickly. The girl wanted to ask the knight to let her go, but he beat her to it. The man asked if she wanted to drink, to which she agreed. Anu takes her to a fountain, which Luciana greatly admires. She saw it from afar at the ceremony, but up close the fountain was much more beautiful. The knight says that the gems on the fountain and cup were made specifically for her blessing. The main character takes a glass of water from the fountain, trying to guess what flavor it will have, apple with honey or orange juice. The girl was amazed at the taste, because it turned out to be the most delicious orange juice she had ever tasted in her life. Anu at this time says that in addition to the banquet, during the week, there will be separate celebrations in her honor, for which gold and silver will be allocated. The events will be held in different parts of the country, and then all the people will receive the blessing of the princess. Even in small villages, her name will be glorified. The knight wanted to invite the princess to continue their walk, when suddenly she ran away from him without saying a word. Luciana hid, thinking that she did not know how to get rid of this prejudice towards him. She hopes it will go away with time. An ingenious plan appeared in Anubis's head. He shows the girl his second dog form, in the hope that she will stop being afraid of him. It works, and the main character happily spins around him, looking at him from all sides. Anu says that she is really interesting, because his appearance scares other people. The girl says that this is all because dogs only get angry when they defend themselves, and there are bad men in the world, but there are no bad dogs. Luciana realized that she now did not want to run away, and thought that perhaps she easily accepted the rabbits because of their cute appearance. The man asked her if she liked his appearance. She said that she was very pleased with this, thinking to herself that she would still see what would come of it. Li Aun remembers having a puppy as a child and how she cried when it died. The girl still does not know what caused his death. However, the main character remembers exactly that she was happy with him at that time. Turning to Anubis, the princess says that the juice was very tasty, and then thanks him for being the first to try to get closer to her. Anu was pleased to hear these words. He also thanks the girl for opening her heart to him. After the walk, the princess and the knight chatted heart to heart about various things. Then, while walking down the corridor, Luciana tells Anu that he is not as evil as the king. The girl was taken aback by Anubis's words. He advises not to be so strict with the king, because he cares about her. She may even call him Dad. The lady said that this is quite strange, but the man thinks that on the contrary, it is very natural. The main character was frightened by the thought that she, Princess Luciana Road Moon Bloodrain, might consider Kaon Moon Bloodrain her named father. Li Yun remembered her past life, where she associated her father with something bad. She began screaming to escape from Anu's hands. The man asked her to calm down, but she shouted that she would never call a stranger Dad. The princess says that she doesn't need fathers at all, and she hates them, although she caught herself thinking that she was so angry because of innocent words. Luciana's hysteria could have continued for a long time, but Anu noticed the bloody drops flowing from the corner of her lips. This made the girl quiet. Bowing his head before the king, the knight thinks that he could not protect the princess and allows his majesty to at least cut off his head. But Kaon only stood up from the throne and asked where she was now, calling the girl simply Lu. Anubis replied that she was in the bedroom, after which Kaon disappeared, leaving behind only a black haze. While the knight went to the king, the rabbits found the princess and called 5 doctors to help her, although the girl said that she was fine. Luciana thanked everyone for their help, but she herself did not understand why the doctors had been sitting next to her for 2 hours if only 1 second was needed for treatment. The magician invites the lady to drink a magic elixir for restoration, but she warns that she is not used to magic, so she needs to be careful. The main character doesn't like the fact that if she gets hurt again, she has to drink a potion. She believes her health would be better served by playing the lottery. She doesn't feel like drinking because the liquid probably tastes bad. She decides to show that she is not okay by, for example, fainting. Li Yun immediately began to carry out her cunning plan, which greatly frightened her servant Marie. However, the visiting magicians remind the girl that her life was created by ancient magic, and even small wounds can behave strangely in her body. Luciana asked if there had already been cases like hers. The magician said that there were, but only one. And besides, there are no records left about this. Now the princess understood why everyone was so worried about her health. She asks who the sick person was. But all she heard in response was silence, so she declared that she would not drink the potion if they did not tell her. The man says that a certain girl was imperfect, so she died. In fact, it was Pandora's box. Lou was upset because just yesterday they told her that she would live happily ever after, and now they say that she could die at any moment. The girl wanted to burst into tears, but everyone reassured her that she was an absolutely perfect creature, and no one had seen such a level of magic as hers. The attention of everyone present in the room was drawn to the king, who appeared out of nowhere. The servants bowed their heads in front of him, greeted him, and said that they were ready to do anything for him, because he gave them life. The main character does not understand why Kaon moved into her room. She wanted to first pretend to be dead, then asleep, so that he would not touch her. Closing her eyes, she heard the king calling out to her in a gentle voice, as if he really cared about her. But Luciana doesn't remember when they were so close that he began to worry about her so much. She admits that she finds it difficult to understand him. Marie's servant says that it seems that the young lady has fallen asleep, which makes her very happy. The princess, in her thoughts, praises her for playing along with her. The king touched the child's head with his hand. At that moment, Li Yun clearly felt that he was sharing manna with her. She smiled because this really refreshed her condition, although she did not want to admit it. Kaon told Lu that she had poor acting skills, which completely betrayed her to the office. Lu wanted to continue pretending to be asleep, but suddenly realized that now might be the perfect chance to talk. Luciana stopped pretending and firmly, without a second thought, told Kaon that she wanted to talk to him. Just by casting his cold glance, the king forced everyone to leave the room, after which he and the princess were left alone. The man sat down next to her and made it clear that he was ready to listen to her. The girl felt awkward because he sat so close. Li Yun noticed that up close, his face seemed perfect, but too cold and insensitive. She wondered what the girl who fell in love with him was like. The king called to her again, after which the princess asked what she needed to do in this world. Kaon reminded her that he had already answered this question, but reiterated that she needed to forget her past life in order to survive here. Lu, who joyfully proclaimed herself a princess at the ceremony, this time in her thoughts called the king a moron who talks crazy things. She noticed a slight smile on His Majesty's face. The girl is very unhappy that he allows himself to mock her and look down on her. But the main character was very happy when she heard the long-awaited words from Kaon. He asked what she wanted. The princess asks the great and noble demon king to send her back. Before she even had time to finish speaking, the king, using magic, quickly sent her to sleep, which infuriated her greatly. Suddenly, the main character opened her eyes, but found herself in another magical world with different childhood joys. Luciana was truly delighted when she saw clouds around her that looked like cotton candy and sweets scattered everywhere. She ran through the clouds, tasting everything and everyone. Even though she doesn't feel any taste because it's a dream, her interest still doesn't fade. The girl lay on multicolored air clouds next to the sun. The sky was truly impressive. Even in the time of Li Un, she dreamed of seeing the sea, but she never went to it. She had a part-time job, but the money she earned was only enough for food and housing. So she lived, without knowing the end. Suddenly, the girl saw the sea behind the clouds. She was very amazed by him, beautiful, even more than she expected. The main character wakes up and notices Marie nearby, who again quietly entered the room so as not to wake her. The servant's concern for the princess was very touching. She treated her well, and that was enough for the mistress. Lu agreed with Marie's offer to bring her breakfast and said that she wanted something sweet. She understood how small children with loving mothers feel. Meanwhile, the king, before whom Anubis bowed, tells him that it will take time for Luciana to forget her past life. Anu agrees to His Majesty, but is perplexed as to why his body is tense and feels as if these are his last moments. Despite his worry, the knight tells Kaon that he understands and will do his best. Anubis reasons that the princess is too dear to His Majesty, and not just because of her resemblance to Acela. He is sure there is another reason. The man left the king's room and saw Marie in front of him. He thought that Lu liked images of animals more because she was offended by people. The knight asked about the princess, but the rabbit immediately replied that she was now resting and eating. Marie then asks Anubis about what the demon king said about the young lady. From the king's words, Anu concluded that the princess slept well this time. The servant agreed to this because Kaon saved her from nightmares. Looking around, the knight shares a secret with the rabbit. The girl doesn't have nightmares, but bad memories from a past life. In her past life, she was wounded from the inside, especially because of her father. Perhaps that's why the king wants to rid her of Li Yun's memories. Marie shares her experiences that although Lu came to an unfamiliar world, she never said that she missed her parents. Then the maid says that she does not understand why the mistress so wants to return to a world where she will be unhappy. Anubis's words stunned the rabbit. The king said that the princess would need time, and apparently her soul was still connected to that world. His Majesty did not rid Lu of her nightmares, but temporarily severed her connection with the past world. But if the connection is completely broken, the soul will disappear from her body. Marie asks the knight about what will happen if the connection is not destroyed, and he tries to return her to the old world. Anubis hesitated for a long time with an answer, but in the end said that he considered it possible. After night fell, Marie went for a walk near the fountain. She realizes that she is just a toy rabbit. She is a creature brought back to life by the king's magic. And like any other creature, she also has emotions and feelings. She knows very well what loneliness is. Other rabbits don't have such a developed soul, so they won't understand what it is. Such an ideal toy no longer exists. She is required to be a maid in the palace, so she will never be able to start a family. But one day she met a princess who was also made by magic. Luciana is the most precious creature in the world after His Majesty, and she was entrusted with her care, after which they became very close. Marie is happy that she seems to have a sweet daughter. However, the rabbit is confused because she doesn't know what she will do when Lu finds out that she can get back to her old world. The main character squealed with delight when she was told that she would learn magic. Luciana is glad that a few days after the ceremony, she at least had something to do. Marie says that according to the plan, she was supposed to start training after the festivities, but the king insisted that this happen sooner. Lu inquired about the date of the banquet, to which the servant replied that it would come when she got used to it a little, because Kaon considered it necessary. The rabbit added that the banquet was being postponed especially because other aristocrats would be there. The main character hopes that this time the king will not be pushed back even further. She doesn't really like all these looks and conversations behind her back. Suddenly, one of the rabbits says that she has a recording of the princess's performance at the ceremony and invites everyone to watch it. The princess clarifies whether she is really there, to which the servants say that it is so, and that her expression, speech, and dance are recorded just perfectly. After watching a video in which she talks about her love, which everyone is about to know, Luciana realizes that she has just seen horror. Within 15 minutes of watching, she felt even worse, but the rabbits thought the video was great, so they made more than 1 billion copies of it. The girl asks why they need copies, simultaneously feeling sorry for her eyes that saw this video. She thinks she would rather step in dog shit 15 more times than watch this. The bunnies say that they will send the video to everyone in the demon world so that everyone will fall in love with the princess. Another servant compares Lu to an angel. The princess is surprised that angel in the demonic world is also a compliment, and she said so to Marie. She finds it strange that the concepts of demonic world and angel do not contradict each other, and even the war between good and evil ended many years ago. Luciana decides to quickly forget everything that she just saw, because she still can't change anything. Then she said that she wanted to learn magic quickly, after which the servant called her children to prepare the young mistress for her lesson. While the princess enjoyed her orange juice, the servants dressed her up beautifully. Marie offered the girl a hat or hairpin to complete the look. Lu doesn't understand why she should pay so much attention to her appearance, so she threw her head back and said that she would choose anyone. The rabbit said that this was important because she would have her first lesson with His Majesty. This shocked Luciana so much that juice spilled out of her mouth. The main character laughs that now she can be called the Princess of the Golden Fountain because she herself almost drowned herself with orange juice. The rabbits quickly brought the girl's appearance into proper shape by choosing a hat for her look. At the rabbit's prompting, the princess came to the door of the room where Kaon studied magic as a child. Entering the room, the girl noticed the Demon King, who stood with his back to her and did not move at all. Luciana thought that he was pretending not to hear, and decided to attract his attention by throwing things on the floor. Her plan doesn't work, and then she tries to call him, but doesn't know how. The girl went through different options in her head, such as man or hey you, but she didn't even want to call him daddy, as Anubis advised. Suddenly she remembers Marie and how she greeted her, after which she does the same. The girl politely greets His Majesty, who gave her life, but all that was heard from the man was a stern and short order not to flatter him. She was offended by such rudeness and said that she was only greeting him. The princess asked if they would learn magic today using a respectful style of speech. Kaon said that she need not speak to him so formally. The man turned to the girl, and she was surprised that now he seemed not so scary. But his gaze still scares her. Kaon hands the child a book. Luciana is happy that today she will actually learn magic. While she was cheerfully looking at the pages, the king strictly ordered her to rewrite all the sheets marked in the book 50 times. Luciana was taken aback. She needed to write it with her little childish hand, with which she only knows how to hold a spoon. She's sure she won't make it. The princess began to try to reduce the difficulty of the task, first by 30 and then by 10 times. But His Majesty said that now she will write everything 100 times. The main character began to jump from despair. The king, who clearly did not expect such whims from her, reminded her that she was, in fact, an adult, albeit in the body of a child. Luciana, whose dissatisfaction has increased even more, says that it will still be difficult for her, and she will not succeed. By order of the man, the girl sits down at the table with a book. She accepted her fate because it was still better than being idle for days. With the help of magic, Kaon moved her scroll and quill, which she had dropped earlier, to the student. Lu, gaining enthusiasm, got to work. While the young lady was writing, the Demon King watched her, sometimes standing next to her, sometimes sitting nearby in a chair. The main character is surprised that writing turned out to be not so difficult, and she can do everything easily. She understood the unfamiliar language well by ear, spoke, and began to speak it, but did not think that writing would be as easy. From the book, the main character learned many incomprehensible elements. Magic is the forces of nature outside the body. Mana is the energy located in the body. But it was interesting for her to write all this. She even had good handwriting, which is why the girl decided that she was a genius. Luciana breathed a sigh of relief when she finished writing her 10th sheet. Since her hand starts to hurt, she decides to write another 20 and rest. Suddenly, the king, using magic, takes one of her scrolls for himself, but the girl began to demand it back since she was not finished yet. But unexpectedly, the princess herself rose into the air, after which she sat back at the table, but on His Majesty's lap. As it turned out, this was all done in order to give the child a regular palm massage. The student was slightly embarrassed by this. She muttered that everything was fine with her, but by that time the man had finished the massage and, picking up the mistress in his arms, said that lunch was ready. Luciana thought that in his kindness, the Demon King was somehow similar to a person. She decides to have lunch with Kaon for the first time, but the princess is not very happy with this. She does not find any sense in why she should eat food at the same table with a person she is afraid of. However, she cannot change anything, and since the king said to eat, then they will eat. His Majesty, who did not even look at his plate of food, praises his student's large appetite. Luciana says that the man does not have much of an appetite. In her thoughts, she is glad that she is not picky about food, although she is allergic to melons. She would like to have lunch with Marie. The girl thought that she was a toy and could not eat, but this turned out to be possible thanks to magic. Lu had to persuade her for a long time to eat with her, but the rabbit refused for a long time, since this was not allowed by her status. The main character is angry that everything failed because of the king, who didn't even drink a cup of coffee with her. Kaon Moon Bloodrain really didn't eat anything, although this was already his second helping of food. Luciana asked the man how he survives if he eats so little. He said that this was enough for him. The girl thought that she looked like an adult compared to him. The princess thought that he didn't taste good, so she asked about it. The king said that he did not know what food tasted like, which surprised her. Lu thought that Kaon didn't feel taste, which is what he started talking about. He really doesn't feel it. He had always disliked food, but even more so after her death. The main character immediately guessed that he was talking about Acela. Luciana answered him with a short, "I see," without even thinking that she had blurted out. Suddenly, Luciana realizes that he decided to eat with her in order to remember the times with his beloved. But the king, who read her thoughts, says that this is not the case, and he does not want to raise her instead of Acela. She was surprised by his directness. Then the girl, although feeling embarrassed, asked the question that most interested her. Why is he so kind to her if she is a mistake? Kaon said that she looks like Acela, but still is not her. The main character is his heir Luciana Road Moon Bloodrain. Lu realized that everything that was happening to her was not a joke, got up from her chair, and saluted like a soldier in front of the commander. This did not cause any emotion on the man's face. He silently left the room. That day, Luciana rewrote the text 50 times. During the day, she spent her free time with the rabbits, and in the evening after classes with Kaon, she had dinner and went to bed. Going to her next lesson, The girl realizes that time has flown by quickly. Previously, she started with 10 repetitions, but now 1 or 2 is enough for her. She admits that she is used to living here. Lu is no longer afraid of the Demon King or worried about being killed one day. She greeted Kaon simply, "Hello, King," and he didn't even seem to mind. When the princess asked what they would do today, His Majesty handed her a small bag. Inside the bag, the main character found a beautiful silver ring with blue and yellow stones. The lady liked the decoration. The girl, for fun, put the ring on her middle finger. She thinks that in the demonic world, they don't know about such gestures, but the king saw this and said that Luciana was going too far. She felt as if she had been caught doing something bad. The man changed her ring to his index one, then the princess sat down on the sofa, upset. She tells Kaon that it's like he can read her thoughts. He said that this was so, to which Luciana playfully cried out that she herself had guessed about this for a long time. The king ordered the heiress to tell everything that she had read and remembered. Tu is annoyed that the harmful king does not understand jokes at all. The main character began the story that demons are the best creatures in the whole world, and their mana is the energy in their body. People in the kingdom can use magic, but they need special items. The Demon King adds that human wizards usually use special staves for their work. Looking at Kaon, the girl thought that his eyes were like a cat's. She remembers that each staff contains magic crystals, which makes her wonder if her ring is a magic staff. His Majesty is surprised that his student has a head on her shoulders, not only for beauty. Luciana tramples his foot for this. However, as soon as the man asked if she had fun doing this, the mischief maker instantly ran away and sat back on the sofa. The king tells her that from now on, she is not an ordinary person, but a magical creature who has too much magical power. When the girl asked if he was teaching her for safety, Kaon simply blinked relaxedly. The main character did not fully understand what this look of his meant, but she told the king that it was because of this that everyone in the palace was afraid of him. Now Princess Moon Bloodrain has a magic ring, which is something like a magic staff. Looking at her ring, the girl thinks that when she grows up, the jewelry will look even more beautiful on her hand. She wants to grow up as quickly as possible, but this is unlikely to happen so quickly. Lu remembers his lottery, which will go back to the National Bank, because the winnings can only be withdrawn within a year. Kaon calls out to the princess. He asks her to run her finger across the light like when she wrote the lyrics. Not quite understanding why, Luciana still does everything as she was told, which is why she gets a magic circle. The girl thinks this circle is familiar, and she remembers that this is the same magic circle that she copied from the book. The book said it was basic magic, and Kaon was forcing her to rewrite symbols she didn't fully understand. The student and her teacher managed to create a huge magic circle. The man says it's basic defensive magic. Luciana says that the book says that magic feels like forward waves, but she felt nothing. She hears not very encouraging words from the king. Perhaps it is because she does not have enough experience, or she is too stupid. He did not quarrel when Lu answered him with insolence. Kaon never reacted to her antics, so she calmly studied magic every day. When the classes came to an end, the servants asked the princess how her lesson went. She said she liked it, but it ended quickly. Marie said that it is better to study magic slowly. Then Luciana will definitely become a great sorceress. When the girl asked if she knew magic, the rabbit with one movement of her finger turned Lu's uniform into a nightgown, which answered the question. Rabbits usually do the work without magic, but sometimes they can use it. The princess wondered when she managed to get used to magic. Marie says that she has a small supply of mana, so she can only use magic for simple things, such as rearranging objects. The princess is still surprised by this and asks the servant if she can bend a spoon with magic. One of the rabbits brought a spoon, and a crowd of spectators gathered around Marie who wanted to see how she would do it. The main maid manages to bend the device using magic, which delights Luciana and the other bunnies. Marie asks the girl what she will do with the bent spoon. The lady guessed that in their world, bending spoons is not something ordinary. And then the main character told the servants that this magical world was similar to those that appeared in fairy tales. The rabbits were very surprised when they learned that there was no magic in the previous world where Li Yun lived. Luciana agreed with them, but said that in the old world they had science with which they could transmit video around the world without a ball like here. Rabbit Marie noticed that the science of this world and the alien world were different, and that their science was more related to alchemy. The princess asked if there really was alchemy in the demonic world, which the servants confirmed, but warned that it was bad science. The main character wanted to ask why she was considered bad, but she was called out by another servant who offered to take apart her purse. The young lady asked her to wait, because she wanted to pick up one book. The servant gives her the book, for which the princess thanks her. She decides to repeat everything she learned today. When the main character was getting ready for bed, Marie told her not to stay up late because her body was already tired from using magic. She agreed with the rabbit and promised that she would read and go to bed. The princess and her servant said goodbye and wished each other good night and sweet dreams. Once alone, Luciana flips through the pages of the book, looking through the sections on basic and initial defensive magic. Leafing through the section about different levels of magic, the girl remembers that hexagrams are used for the basic level, but Kaon used something else. The main character does not give up hope of finding exactly what she needs in the book, and soon she succeeds. There are many ways to control magic. There are also particularly rare methods that are inaccessible to many. A magic circle that connects higher black magic by enhancing basic protection magic. The magic circle wizard is endowed with 3 levels of powerful defensive magic, and if they are all used and the magician's life is in danger, then all the wounds inflicted on him can be transferred to the victim, whose name is indicated in the magic circle. The girl thought about who sacrificed himself for her. It is unlikely that His Majesty would have written his name in the magic circle. Anubis comes to mind next, but the princess also thinks that he would not do this, because he has long served the king loyally. A terrible guess comes to her. It is possible that her beloved servant Marie wrote her name in the circle. Luciana fell out of bed in hysterics, praying that it wasn't her. The princess ran to the doors, but Anubis was behind them, whom she crashed into. The knight took the girl in his arms and asked what happened. Lu, bursting into tears, began to ask him about Marie. The girl and Anu sat down on the bed to talk. The man pats the child on the head and advises her not to worry about this. Luciana clarifies whether it is true that her name was not written in the magic circle, to which Anu said that this cannot be, because the king trusts her as much as he trusts him. The knight jokes that if Marie's name really was written there, then His Majesty is a complete fool, which makes the young lady laugh very much. At first, the girl refused his offer to call Maria, because she was probably already asleep. But Anubis believes that the rabbit will only be glad that the princess cares about her so much. Anu was right that she wanted to see Marie to calm down. Only thanks to her, the main character was able to get used to life here. Luciana realizes that she could not live without her, because she has become like a new family for her. The girl still asks the knight to call the rabbit. While Anu went to fetch the servant, the princess lay down on the bed, waiting. She decides to ask Marie one day to sing her a lullaby. Suddenly, Lu heard someone's voice saying that he was lonely. The girl jumped up in surprise and at first thought it was Anu. The princess left the room, calling Anubis. She again heard a voice that said that he did not want to die. The main character thought that the voice asking for help was coming from the end of the corridor. Luciana shouted to the stranger that if he needed help, then let him tell, and she would find him. The voice groaned in pain. The girl, who barely has time to run towards the sound, promises herself that next time she will master the magic of lengthening her legs. Although, with long legs, she will look strange, so she will just learn to walk quickly. The voice led her to a cold dungeon, into which she descended a long staircase. A young lady peers through the bars into one of the cells. She didn't find anything in it, but she's sure that the voice came from here. The girl wanted to leave and return with Anu and Marie, but again she heard a voice that did not want to die. The heroine noticed that he was getting weaker. She ordered the stranger to wake up, but out of nowhere, a blue magical lightning appeared, which the child was very frightened of. Luciana fell painfully on her butt. She is glad that now at least she knows the magic of protection. Looking at the fence again, the princess noticed that it was broken, after which she decided to take the initiative into her own hands. The girl hits the bars with her strength in order to finally break them. The magic lightning that serves as protection sparkled again. On her 8th blow, the iron could not stand it and crumbled. The princess admires how strong she is. Suddenly, unknown people, who heard strange sounds from the dungeon, went downstairs to see what was happening. Luciana hid nearby and watched as the 2 men were surprised that the iron fence imbued with magic was broken. One of them guesses that someone deliberately destroyed the fence using protection magic. The main character was overcome with shame. She realized that it would be better not to touch those bars at all. One of the men says that he will now look around, which really scared the girl. She prays no one noticed her, but the mysterious hooded stranger said that this should not be done, since magic can only be destroyed by high-class magic. Another man agreed with him, calling the hooded stranger Mr. Yulin. This interested Luciana. Yulin says that only the king and princess have such strong magic. He assumes that it was the latter who got here. but his partner says that this is impossible since she is under constant supervision and protection. Yulin says that this is true and that anyone with magical powers will suffer severely if they get here. Their entire body will be crushed and they will die, unable to even breathe. He admits that it was the same with his ancestors, and in just 3 seconds his fate was predetermined. The other was surprised by his words. Yulin says that this is proof of how great their mana is. Luciana dreams of them leaving as soon as possible. Mr. Yulin says that only those like him who have received His Majesty's permission and those who have a small amount of mana can survive this. He, taking off his hood, adds that 2 strong wizards, such as Acela, can also survive this. Luciana is surprised that she saw the elf, because she thought that she would never meet them. She wants to take a closer look at him, but she doesn't dare get out. The elf, looking around the destroyed grate, says that perhaps the creature that was sitting there is already dead. Another man recalls that this is the 3rd time this has happened. Yulin concludes that the system is imperfect. The partner asked whether it was worth telling the king about everything, but the elf began to scold him because then His Majesty would grind them into powder. The man did not argue, because their heads would fall immediately if Kaon found out about everything, because that prisoner should not have been here at all. The girl agrees with the elf's words. The king is terrible in anger. To avoid punishment, Lu thinks about pretending not to know anything. Yulin says that the prisoner's magic is not as strong as before, so he decides to wait and kill him, just like His Majesty wanted. When everyone had left the dungeon, the princess came out of hiding and noticed that there was another staircase going down. She wanted to go down there. However, remembering the elf's alarming words that they need to kill someone, Luciana still does not dare to go down there and returns. The girl comes into the corridor, where Marie and Anu are already waiting for her. She's used to life here, so she doesn't want to spoil anything. After returning the young lady to sleep in her chambers, the knight and maid left, wishing the child good dreams. Luciana finds it strange that she doesn't know what the voice was, pleading for help. Even if she returns to the dungeon, she will not be able to do anything. But she pulled herself together and decided that she would need to learn healing magic, which she would ask Kaon for tomorrow. She knows that this knowledge will be useful to her. But when morning comes, the girl is told that there will be no magic lesson. This surprises her very much. Marie says that His Majesty is away on a meeting and will be away for a few days, which upsets Lu. She asks about a second teacher, but Marie says that she doesn't have a replacement yet, when suddenly the princess remembers the Archmage Yulin and asks the rabbit to call him so that he can be her teacher. On the way to the class location, Luciana reasons that the author of the book she took with her is Yulin, so everything should be fine. Approaching the botanical garden, the girl wonders if there really is an alchemist here. Marie says that it is, because they are going to his laboratory. The maid says that he constantly changes his place of residence. In spring and autumn, he is in the laboratory, and in summer and winter in other places. The rabbit admits that she will see him now for the first time, and Anu says that they have never spoken, but have seen each other. The servant and Anubis are greeted by Archmage Yulin, but the knight tells him to greet the princess first. The elf, having dropped all the books from his hands, rushed to greet the girl so much that she was already scared. He greeted me nicely and introduced himself. Yulin Hyzar, although an elf, has been working as a wizard in the demonic world for many years. Usually elves are much more closely connected with the world of angels. His ancestors were forever banished from the sacred forest, and he was born and raised in the demonic world, so everyone thinks that he is a dark elf. But still, he was able to preserve the honor of the elves, because his ancestors did not practice black magic. He is an elf who does not deserve to be part of the sacred forest. But Yulin himself believes that everything depends on the way you look at the situation, because from birth, he cannot become either a full-fledged demon or a full-fledged angel. Perhaps that is why he was so happy about every discovery and also worked as an archmage at the palace. And Princess Luciana, who appeared in front of him, seems very special to him. Sitting down at the table, Yulin tells the princess that it turns out she doesn't have the same preferences as he thought. It seemed to him that she would choose milk for tea. The princess in her thoughts is surprised at his senile preferences. The girl asks the Archmage for permission to call him simply Yulin, because Archmage Yulin is too long. The Archmage happily agrees and says that he will do everything to replace His Majesty in her classes. Lu thought that Yulin would be arrogant, but fortunately that was not the case. He treated her to tea and promised to teach her magic. Rabbit Marie and Luciana thank Mr. Yulin. The servant says that she will pick up the mistress after classes. The main character believes that Marie was worried that the Archmage would refuse to train a high-ranking person like a princess, but they succeeded. Before starting the lesson, the girl was about to express her desire to learn, so she asked how many times she needed to rewrite the pages. She asks if 50 times will be enough for her, but Yulin doesn't understand what she's talking about and asks again. Luciana, who thought that she would again have to rewrite the text several times, also fell into confusion. The Archmage at first laughed eerily at the fact that His Majesty was forcing the girl to do this, but at the same moment, his face lit up with a joyful smile from the fact that his book had been rewritten as many as 50 times. He says it's a great honor for him. As things stand, the princess asks her new teacher not to give her the same task. Luciana was overcome with anger from the realization that the moron king was really just mocking her by giving her such tasks.